Are you looking to learn the 12-step process to the ultimate mid-year financial checkup? Well, stick around because today on the Fi Guys, we're going to be covering everything that you need to do to set yourself up for the rest of 2024. This is the Fi Guys. Let's get started. So, Dominic, today I'm going to be teaching you what you need to do mid-year. Well, we're right now, July of time of recording, first month of July. So first thing we're going to do is start talk about what do we need to do in order to set ourselves up for the rest of the year financially? What's the checklist? What's the secret sauce? Maybe I fell off of what I want to do since January. It's okay. We can start today to get right back on that path with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good pod. I think everybody needs a 6-month check-in, especially if you're not doing monthly check-ins, especially if you have no idea about your finances. This is definitely a good wake-up call. So yeah, I'm excited for all the secret sauce you're going to put us on to. And yeah, God, you got me talking about food again. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, you do that to yourself this time.
I did that to myself. Yeah, now I'm hungry.
Yes.
Anyway,
me and my wife, we just went through our mid-year check-in and we sat down. We went through all these steps. So this is something that we actually use. And hopefully today you're going to get also the 12 steps that you're going to need, the things you're going to go over with your spouse or maybe just by yourself. But hopefully I'll also be able to glean some of the things that you need to do when you're speaking with your spouse, speaking with your partner about, hey, let's have this money talk. And it doesn't need to be as scary as most people think it is. Because unfortunately, when we sit down with our loved ones, we talk about money, it ends up becoming a battle most of the time. And money shouldn't be that. It should be a nice conversation that we're having. We're speaking about what our rich lives are, what we want to have in life, and how is money going to be the facilitator to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have the 6-month check-in, okay? But how often should we be checking? Is this like a once a year thing, or like what are we thinking? Twice a year?
You know, there's an old adage that the average person spends more time a year planning their vacation than they do planning their financial health. And
100%.
most people don't even go on vacation. So let's say it's an hour or 2 hours a year. That's how much time people are putting towards getting better at finances. Yeah. My recommendation as a financial advisor, I'm checking my finances constantly, but I'm neurotic. I would not do what I do. I suffer from anxiety. But the average person should probably be checking in once a month with this. The ideal would be that we set up an automated system that all of this stuff is flowing already. And we just go in once a month, check, make sure, hey, are we still on track? Are we hitting our goals? Are we spending too much? Are we not spending enough to live our rich lives? And figuring out that discussion rather than looking at what can I do to maximize my investments? What can I do to do all these things? You're more looking at my making the amount of money that I assumed I was going to. Am I spending the right amount of money as well?
Yeah, because you don't want to overspend and you don't want to underspend.
Yeah, make sure.
You said something crazy. I don't know if it was last podcast or the podcast before. You said something crazy that it was like, I've never heard. He's like, Chris was telling me how him and his wife, they did their monthly dinner date, their finance dinner date. And you were telling me that we're saving too much money. We're saving too much. We should be spending more money in different areas than because you have a time to when you want to retire, and you just you're like, yeah, we're gonna spend it. Normally it's spending too much money. He's like, we're saving too much money.
Yeah. That's again personal finance is personal. So please, we looked at it during our mid-year check-in. We went through and we were looking at projections for our investments, and we were looking at our retirement accounts were going to have too much money in them. And of course, there is never too much money. But we're over optimizing our retirement money and not having enough money in non-qualified funds and money for right now for things that we need for cash flow issues today. So only by actually looking at that do we say, oh, hey, we're putting too much money towards savings, too much money towards those qualified funds, money we can access when we're 59 and a half. But what I don't want to end up in the situation of is being quote unquote financially independent and being 40 years old and having $7 million in an account that I can't touch until I'm 60 years old.
Yep.
Now, of course, there are financial planning tricks like a Roth conversion ladder that I can start to work with at a younger age. But again, that's advanced financial planning. That's really a time where you need to work with someone like myself or another qualified fiduciary advisor to figure out the plan that's right for you. Because there is no one plan that's going to fit all when it comes to those types of things. Those are all going to be very niche specific.
Yeah, it usually is. There's no one size fits all. There's no blanket plan. It's always like like you said, the personal side of personal finance. That's what it is. That's what it always is. So, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. We love the personal side
Yeah.
of personal finance. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And that's the thing that makes it difficult, right? You go online, you say like, hey, I think the hard part is there's never been more information
Mhm.
readily available to all people.
Yeah.
And even with all that information, we are more dumb than we've ever been when it comes to actually knowing the truth behind the matter. Because every time you put in a Google search, hey, I have a Schwab account, I want to get the S&P 500.
Yeah.
What's the S&P 500 ticker symbol? And then you end up with 10 ads all sending you in 10 different directions. And now
Yeah.
you're confused as to like, what am I even doing here? Is this the right thing for me to invest in? And that's where it really behooves somebody to work with a financial advisor, a financial coach, something like that, that you can actually get the truth behind the things. Because unfortunately, when you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out what's this person's intention, there's an
Mhm.
old Charlie Munger quote that is, you show me someone's incentives and I'll show you their outcome. Well, if my incentive is to sell you something, then you know that I'm going to try to sell you something. But if you pay me up front for a fee-based financial plan, then that means that you've already paid me. I'm not trying to sell you anything else. So you know that I'm impartial because I already have my money up front and
Interesting.
foremost.
Yeah. Interesting. How about that? How about that?
So
I
let's
like
get
that.
into the 12.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
let's
Please.
get
Please.
let's get into the 12-step review. And actually more to come on that on Five Friday feedback. I'm going to
Okay.
tell you one of the new business ventures that I'm doing through Monzon Wealth. So stick around for Five Friday feedback. Go ahead and listen to the win of the week, and we'll get there. But the first thing that we want to do when it comes to the 12 steps of the mid-year financial check-in is, first off, we want to do a spending review.
Yeah.
I think so many people focus on how much money am I making. Everything else doesn't really matter. It's kind of like fitness, right? In fitness, we used to think sleep is important. You're going to sleep when you're dead. But more and more research comes out and shows sleep's actually one of the most important thing.
It is. It really is.
And it's the same thing with saving your money or the way that you spend your money. Everyone used to say spending your money, how you're saving your money, that stuff doesn't matter. What really matters is how much money you're making.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for fitness. What really matters is how you're working out. But if you're not eating right and you're not sleeping right, it doesn't matter how many reps you're putting in at the gym. You're not going to look the way that you want to look. Maybe on the short term you might, but on the long term, it's going to get back to you. It's the same thing with your finances. If you're focusing only on how much money I'm making, but you're not focusing on how much money you're spending, and then what you're doing with that saving, or with the money that you're saving and putting into investments,
Yeah.
you can be making all the money in the world, but you can still end up not being wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's kind of crazy about it, is people oftentimes think that, that doctor, he makes buku bucks, so much money. That lawyer makes so much money, right? He must be rich. And then, well, sometimes, I mean, yeah, just because you have a higher income producing, that's great and all, but you can also have a really big spending problem, and you could be poorer than the guy who works at McDonald's. That's a crazy place to be in, where say I make $1 million a year and I spend, at the end of the year, minus expense, I have $10,000 left, right?
Yeah.
Well, that would mean that the guy at McDonald's, if he works, $30,000 a year, right, and he saves $20,000 of that, I don't know how, but he does. He has more money than me. Crazy enough, isn't it? I just think that's the most darndest thing. So it's not always about increasing the spending or increasing the income. Obviously, increasing the income, super, 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 super important. But it's like there's two ways to get to your goal faster, and that's what I love to focus on, because a lot of times we'll focus on either cutting, and sometimes we never focus on the increasing of income. So I don't know. I like to give both perspectives of, you can be poor and retire rich, and you can be rich and retire poor. Kind of what
You're
my
exactly
thought
right.
process
And
is.
that's something that I tried to really bring to the podcast that I don't think most people are doing, is we're trying to bring on nuance to the conversation.
Yes.
That's the reason that we have an hour-long podcast every week, because I can't take any one of these moments and bring it down to a snippet, even though we do our shorts. But our shorts are drivers to go and watch the full podcast and actually get the information, because I can't take a financial plan that I'm going to generalize to the masses and put it into a 30-second short. How many people do that? Oh, hey, save $100 a month for your baby and in a Roth IRA, and in 16 years they're going to be a millionaire. Well, that's all true, but in order for you to open up a Roth for your baby has to have earned income. So what job are you going to stick your baby in that's going to make them earned income? You're going to put them as like a foreman or something on a line? That's good.
Yeah. No,
Is it possible to do? %. But there are things that we need to, there's steps. There's steps to this.
Yeah. I mean, you could get them in Disney Channel, maybe a model or something, or one of those babies you
ruin
see
their
in
life.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you're getting the benefits though. I don't know.
I guess it worked out for Amanda Bynes.
Lord. It worked out for Macaulay Culkin.
Didn't he have a drug issue?
No comment. You talking about Home Alone?
The only one that made it out of there alive was
listen. He fought off 2 adult robbers in his young adolescent age. That's pretty epic, pretty gnarly. And he ended up marrying Brenda Song. The man has unbelievable game. Unbelievable.
I won't disagree with you there. I will say the only person I can think of that made it out of like childhood acting, because again, there's always a trade-off, that made it out relatively okay was Hilary Duff, the girl that played Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
Only one that made it out fine.
Good for her.
You're the GOAT.
Hilary Duff. So back onto the personal side of personal finance and having nuanced conversations about really difficult topics when it comes to finance. The mid-year checkup. Everybody should have it. Just like they get a checkup from the doctor. Also, I'm going to say it. If you're not getting a checkup from the doctor, probably should get one of those too. Because if you're slacking on finance, probably a good chance you're slacking on your health too. We make a lot of parallels between finance and fitness because there's a lot they have in common in regards to like the discipline, the consistency, the hard work it'll take to get to where you're going. So yeah, let's get into the real nitty gritty. I'm kind of just saying general stuff, and I want to get into the brass tack stuff. So you want to take over?
Yeah, of course. So number one, we're going to do a spending review. And what that actually means is we're going to compare our income and our expenses against our actual spending plan. So that first off means that we hopefully had a spending plan where we were looking every single month saying, hey, this is how much we want to go towards savings, this is how much we want to go towards discretionary, and this is how much we want to go towards non-discretionary items. That's the way I break down mine. That's the way I break it down for my clients. Discretionary, non-discretionary. I try to keep it as simple as I possibly can. If you want to make it more complex, you do you, boo-boo. Everyone can do whatever they want. But at that point, once we look at our tracking, we look at all the money, we start to be able to identify categories where we maybe overspent or underspent. And we all know what overspending looks like, right?
We know that all too well. If you don't know that, dude, who are you? Hilary Duff?
Yeah, you're probably not listening to the podcast because you're like, I'm already rich. So I'm not.
Exactly.
But what we don't talk about is underspending, because there are categories that you can underspend in, but in order to underspend in something, it usually means you're overspending somewhere else. So for me and my wife, we love to travel. And there really is very a rare time where we overspend in traveling. But we also like to eat out. So there are times where I might eat out far too often. So I overspend there. And then if I overspend there, then that means I had to underspend in travel.
Yeah.
And again, this is about your rich life vision. It's what you really want. Every personal finance is personal. So you decide what's important to you. Maybe you're someone who says, hey, Chris, I don't really care about eating out. I don't care about traveling. I'm just really into dirt biking. And I want to put all my money into traveling, to dirt bike, and do this stuff. That's cool, man. Are you spending the appropriate amount of money to where you want to go? I think there's a quote that I really liked, and it's really not a quote, it's a statement. A lot of people will look at their lives and say, man, I'm not happy where I am. What can I do to change it? Yeah. And if you look at their actions, every action they're doing is feeding the life that they don't want. And every action that they put towards feeding the life that they don't want, they're moving farther away from the life that they do want.
What a concept. What an interesting way to put it. I like that. Okay. What else we got? I like that. Let's keep it going.
After we do the categories, we find where we underspent, we found where we overspent. We need to start to adjust the spending plan to allocate for the remaining months. So maybe the spending plan's off. If you show me where you're spending your money, I'll show you what's actually important to you. If you tell me, hey, savings is important to me, retirement's important to me, but you're blowing every single dollar you have on Grubhub and purses, I'm going to...
Yeah. You clearly don't want retirement that bad. Clearly.
And that's okay. And that's
okay.
If that's what you want.
You know, Grubhub, I like food. You know I love food. Maybe too much. Purses, not so much. Like you said, it's almost like a financial autopsy. You know, you can really see what happened. Hopefully you're not financially dead yet. Hopefully. That's why we have the check-in. Dr. Chris is here.
Check-in.
Yeah.
Right. We're looking at all that stuff, and we're doing that mid-year check-in to see what's going on and figure that out. So first thing we're going to do, review our spending, see what it is that we wanted to happen and what actually happened. And If there's adjustments to be made, we're going to make that adjustment. Step 2, we're going to need to do an income assessment. Remember, there's two sides of this equation. How much money we're making, how much money we're spending is what equals the gap. And the gap is what is the driver to financial dependence. That's what we're going to use to actually invest in assets that are going to continue to accumulate money. Mm-hmm. So we just focus on one side of the equation, how much we're spending. Now we're going to focus on how much money we're making. We need to verify all sources of income for their accuracy. If you projected at the beginning in January, hey, I'm going to make $100,000 this year, and now you're here in mid-year, July, and you're saying, oh shit, I've only made $30,000, we're going to need to readjust everything because we need to figure that out. Right now, what I don't want you to do is be at $30,000 mid-year and be like, I guess I have to make $70,000 right now, and I'm going to hope it works out. Yeah. That's what most people do. They go through life with hope. Yep. Hope that it's going to work out. Hope that if I take out this loan, I'll be able to figure it out. Too often are people making it future use problem. I don't know what to do right now, but I want this right now. I'm going to get mine, and future me is going to have to deal with that.
Yeah. And you're usually in that place. You're usually there when you're in a bad financial place. You're making sacrifice plays, right? Betting on something that doesn't exist. It's like when you're dating someone, right? And they're a terrible person, but maybe they have potential and you keep dating them. It's like, well, you shouldn't date on potential. You should date on how they actually are. You make choices in the real, not in the fantasy, not in the predicament. You're not an oracle. You're not a wizard. You can't predict the future. Who knows? I might walk out. I might stand up and be like, I don't like finance, and blow all my money. You'd be like, could have never predicted that, right? So you really don't know. You really don't know. So like Chris said, like, don't sacrifice future you for present you, right? Make the best decisions you can with the information that you have, the concrete information, not the made up stuff, not the stuff that, I can make more money. Well, if you could make more money, why didn't you make more money and save it? Because the past is just going to repeat itself. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't want to dig myself into a hole. It's like, sir, you're already in a hole. And you gotta do something.
And unfortunately, it's harder for people that are stuck in the muck, that are living paycheck to paycheck. Because if I'm driving in the fog right now and I can't see 5 feet in front of my car, I'm not thinking about, when I get to my destination, I can't remember if it's a right or a left. The only thing I'm focused on is getting the next 5 feet without hitting something. So only through taking control of your life can you actually get your head out of the fog, get that 10,000 foot view and say, okay, this is where we're at. But that takes intention. It takes a lot of work. It takes doing these steps and working through it. Again, there is no secret to finance. The secret is there is no secret. The secret is that 80 to 90% of being good with finances has to do with your systems and your behaviors, not with specific investments or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So after we verify all sources of income, we need to consider any income changes. Maybe at the end of the year, am I expecting a big bonus? Am I expecting a raise? Are there additional income streams that I'm counting on in order to make what I said at the beginning of the year to actually get to its place? And then we need to start to plan for income changes for the rest of the year, given that we maybe miscalculated at the beginning of the year and we're off, or given that the second part of the year, maybe you're a salesperson, January through June, not great, but hey, holiday season, that's where I really ramp up. You need to figure that out for yourself and say, where am I? But these two things, step 1 and step 2, are the most important things. How much money am I spending versus what I projected? How much money am I making versus what I projected? Once you minus how much you're spending versus how much you made, that's what's actually going to give you the money to go invest into things. You can use leverage in order to invest in things, in order to invest in assets, but you're taking on a lot more risk. When people use the words credit, when people use the words leverage, what they're really saying is debt. Those are fancy words for debt.
Yeah.
And all debts need to be repaid.
Yep. And a lot of times I find this is like a really bad thing that people say. So there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? If you're a beginner, if you're a novice, all debt, we're just going to consider all debt is bad debt for you, right? There are good debt. Chris and I do know about good debt, right? What they're talking about with good debt would be like debt that provides income, right? And that might be like, I don't want to get too thick in it, but basically when people say good debt, it's basically like I bought an investment property, easy numbers, for 100,000. I put 20,000 down. I got an $80,000 mortgage, and the cost of it is $500 a month, right? But the renter pays me 1,000, so I'm profiting 500. That would be considered good debt. Ain't no such thing as good debt when it comes to credit cards. Ain't no such thing. We talked about credit card hacking. It's not worth the points. Okay. We do recommend credit card hacking. If you're going to spend the money already, might as well get some points for it. Kind of game the system. Fun way to do it. But there's no, in order to get to the good debt stage, that's a high level. That's even above Chris and I right now. We're really not using too much debt to increase our wealth at this point. What do you think?
I mean, look at Warren Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
He's never taken on debt, and he's one of the richest people in the world because what did he do? Instead of, actually, did you know that when Berkshire Hathaway started, there were 3 people there, but we only know about Warren and Charlie.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 people we know about. There was actually a third guy who was arguably, according to Warren Buffett, a better investor than both Warren and Charlie. But
really,
he got greedy. Yeah, I don't remember his name or anything. You can look it up yourself.
And that's the key point.
He ended up getting.
You don't remember his name because he got greedy. He got washed out.
He got greedy. He started using leverage, and eventually that leverage caught up with him. He was making more money. He was winning. Yeah. But when you take on leverage, you take on debt. You take on debt. You take on a future obligation. And sometimes, and unfortunately more times often than not, things move against you in terms of investments. You and I have started companies. Yep. We know that failure rate is extremely high.
Yeah.
If you go ahead and you say, I'm going to finance this business by taking out $100,000 loan, and then it's okay, my business is going to make money. In order for you to break even, you have to make $100,000 plus whatever the interest that you got on that is.
Yep.
For you to be at zero.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark Cuban said this once. He's like, you should never take on a loan in order to start a business. I don't disagree with it. Because it's so hard. It's so hard to convince people to spend money when you have no brand loyalty, when you have no identity. You're just a random guy. Like, it is tough. Any business is really tough, Yeah.
I mean, look at me. I'm trying to fix financial planning. I'm trying to fix financial advising. In a trend system where most people hate financial advisors because financial advisors have unfortunately put their needs in front of their clients for decades now. And I'm trying to be the person to go out there and say, hey, financial planning doesn't need to be this hard thing. If we focus on the feelings, we focus on the financial coaching aspect rather than the financial advising. If we focus on the 80% rather than trying to optimize the 20%, you can go so much farther, so much faster. I'm trying to fix an entrenched thing all by my little lonesome here with a podcast and a company.
Yeah.
And the only reason I can do that is because I built up the savings. I built up the financial independence to be able to go in there and try to fight. Every day I wake up and I don't know if I'm going to, of course, this happens very often, if I want to continue doing this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to remember, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my mom who had no financial education and got bamboozled into 100 different pyramid schemes. I'm doing this for my dad who had to work every year of his life, eventually getting injured in war in order to eventually retire. I'm working for my grandfather who came to this country from Mexico, worked his way up as a rigging company, eventually owned a company and died with debt because he never figured it out. When you start with the end at the end, when you start with the end at the, or you start with your why and you work towards that, you're going to be able to make it through anyhow.
Yeah.
Viktor Frankl, a strong enough why can make it through anyhow. I just recently read A Man's Search for Meaning again, which amazing book. I definitely recommend it.
A Man's Search for a Meaning.
A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I'll have to put that on the list.
It's a Holocaust book. It's a little tough, but it's it's very good for when you get down on yourself about I'm not where I want to be. My life sucks. All this stuff. It's because who you're comparing yourself to. If you have a strong enough why, for me, it's my family. It's thinking about all the things that I had to go through and my parents had to go through and to this day continue to go through.
Yeah.
If I can help one person learn that, hey, this finance stuff isn't that hard. If you figure out some key concepts and the longer that you search for the secret, the longer you're delaying actually getting good.
Yeah. I think a lot of newbies, whenever they start something new, unless you have that maturity about you, you've been around a little bit longer, in everything, they'll always look for the quick fix. What's the quickest way I can get a six pack? What's the fastest way I can get shredded? What's the next stock pick? Give me something I can put 100 in today and I can get 10,000 back tomorrow. The only hack or secret sauce or I can think of is don't ever miss a day. Always be consistent every single day. Every single day. Because you never know when that lucky break is going to happen, and you don't know when that bad break is going to happen, right? So I think the real secret is just not being like that third member of Berkshire who nobody knows about, right? The important thing is to stay in the game. That's really what we're trying to do here. That's like phase one, really, is you might start making easy money. You might start making XYZ, right? Try not to blow it all.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the game. Because once you dig yourself in a hole, it's tough to get out. It's tough.
It is.
I think everybody's been there. Everybody's been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah. I've been there. I've screwed up. And, even today, like the biggest thing that I always like to try to tell people when I'm doing my financial coaching is, even today, as someone who is financially independent, gets to do whatever the hell he wants. I wake up, I go and I coach jujitsu, I go out, I cold plunge, I chill, I read, I get to talk to people, and now we're doing this podcast. It's a pretty cool day. I got to do whatever the hell I want to do.
It's solid.
I still struggle with money things every single day. I still have anxiety about money. I don't think that's ever going to go away because at its core, the reason that we feel so weird about money is that we have traded our life energy, our time, our youth for this thing called money. And that money affords the ability to do anything we want. But of course, it feels icky. Of course, it feels weird. You're trading your life, your time, the one thing that we all have 24 hours in this day. You're trading that for this thing. Yeah. And unfortunately, if you're trading that for money and then you're blowing money on stupid shit like a purse or a ring or a car that you don't need, it's going to feel a lot worse because you're not living the life that you want. So stop feeding the life that you don't want and start feeding the life that you do. And of course, it takes conscious effort. It takes time. It takes energy. And it's hard. It's hard every single day. And I can't tell you every single way that you're going to be successful, but let's do the Charlie Munger thing and invert it. Yeah. Instead of saying, what do I need to be successful? Let's invert it and say, what do I need to do to not be successful? Exactly. If I don't want to be successful, I'm not going to focus on how much money I'm spending. I'm not going to know what kind of money I'm bringing in. To our third point, I'm not even going to know where my financial documents are, which leads us to the third thing you want to do. You want to organize your financial documents. So you want to gather all your important financial documents and start to establish an easy access points. I would always say consider digitizing.
Yes, digitizing them. That's a weird word.
Yes.
Digitizing. I guarantee I'm saying it wrong. Digitalizing? Skip it.
No, I think it's digitizing. Editor. So I would definitely recommend digitizing everything for your convenience. And then also when you're doing this organization time, it's also a great chance to check for beneficiaries. Make sure that all this stuff is right because you don't need to be doing this all the time. But while you're here doing it, you already have the papers in front of you. Make sure everything's right. See what's going on. Look at your bank statements. Do they look right to you? Do I have 16 bank statements? If you do, can we start to simplify that kind of stuff?
Yeah, simplicity is key. Simplicity will get you so much further. And thankfully, it's never been easier to digitize. There it is again. Your finances. I'm not going to say it a fourth time. I'm not going to do it. Not going to give the comment section more ammo, but
another one.
Another one. Yeah, I'm going to see this. Chris is going to be editing the shorts, and it's just going to be me like a 30-second clip of trying to figure this word out. Dude, we get lit up in the comments sometimes. Oh, we have really great comments as well. That's the great comments are like such a warm feeling. Apparently,
it's hard. It's hard. I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, what am I selling to you? I'm not selling anything. What I'm selling to you is personal responsibility. I'm selling to you hard work and effort. And if you're someone who's saying, I don't want to do that, I just want the quick fix. What I'm selling doesn't sound good, but what I'm selling is the thing that actually works.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's really sellable. How do I sell to you? Hey, Chris, I really want to get in good shape. You have pretty big arms. How do you get good arms? And I tell you, okay, Dominic, you need to show up to the gym every single day. You need to eat right, and you need to work out. You need to sleep.
Yeah.
Are you going to buy my product, or are you going to buy the guy's product down the street who says, just take this pill?
The guy on the corner selling me drugs. Yeah. Yeah. No. there's more. I'll say this. People who are born into wealth are very depressed people.
Mm-hmm.
People who come up and they do it the hard way. Now that's a great feeling. Retiring your parents, taking care of your family, right? There's some stuff money can't buy, right? You can't buy grit. You can't buy the memories of the struggle. You can't buy those things, right? I don't know. I feel like you can't, like, going back to the gym analogy, it's like, sure, you could just pop steroids and work out a little bit, right? And get a little bit larger, but you're cheating. And you know you're cheating. And you know you're cheating in your mind. And I don't know. I feel like that would just create some max level freaking imposter syndrome, that you don't belong.
I don't know. I have different thoughts when it comes to steroids, because steroids isn't really cheating, because you still have to put in the work.
You do. Yeah, that's the funny thing. People don't know that.
Just because you're on steroids doesn't mean you're gonna get jacked.
It's so funny.
That's just the way it works.
So you know what the
worst just get?
I think the best thing I've ever seen online is when people are like you don't go online that much, but there's these people where they'll go up and they'll do like interviews with like outside of bars or whatnot, and they'll be like, "What's your opinion on the steroids or whatnot?" On a guy on steroids, he's like, and the guy's clear like he's on steroids, right? And she's like, I don't want a guy on steroids. I want someone who looks more natural, kind of like you. And it's like such a funny dig. It's like you take steroids, you still don't look big, you still look natural. It's like, oh man, that sucks. Sucks for you, man.
That'd be tough.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to incentives, right? If you show me, it was Charlie Munger that said, if you show me someone's incentives, I'll show you their outcome.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, everyone's trying to sell you something. And I think there's a bodybuilder who actually ended up dying. His name was Rich Pena.
I remember.
Yeah, huge dude. He was part of like the mutant crew.
He was mad.
Like just giant people.
Yeah.
And Rich would always say when people come up to him and say like, "Hey, Rich, what steroids are you taking? Like what BCAAs? Like, are you cold plunge? Are you doing all these things?" Yeah. He would say, "The most important thing you need to do to get like me is you need to eat." Yeah. And the person would always say, "You need to eat good quality food." The person would say, "Well, that's not what I was told. I was told I need the right pre-workout, the wrong pre-workout." And he always tell them, none of that shit matters.
No.
Eating is the most important thing. And the same thing with your finances. The most important thing is your habits. How much money you're making, how much money are you spending? If we're not making enough, can we make more? If we're spending too much, can we spend less?
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting back to the basics. It's getting right back to the basics, right? That's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. If you can master the basics, 80% there, maybe even higher.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
And it's, the same thing for jiu-jitsu. I teach jiu-jitsu, and a lot of people, they're like, "Hey, can I come to the jiu-jitsu level 3 class? Because, I don't really want to do the level 1 and level 2 stuff." I'm like, no, of course not. Because
we'll
the foundation. Well, yeah, but how do you build a house? I don't show up to build a house and say, "All right, this is what I want for the roof. Let's start making the roof first."
Yeah.
In order for me to make the house, I need to start with the foundation. The foundation makes every single thing. If I have a shitty foundation and I build a house on it, that house will eventually crumble.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your finances. If I have a shitty foundation, if I don't know how much I'm spending, if I don't know, and now all the money that comes in just goes away magically, but I'm making a good amount of money, eventually it will catch up to you. But the messed up thing is that a really good income can hide a money issue for a very long time.
And it's going to be a hard fall, because we talk about lifestyle inflation, lifestyle creep. That fall from, your Maserati, your Starbucks every day, steakhouse every night, like you're going to have
you knew what you had. You had it and you lost it, which is sometimes harder than never having it at all. And I would say stick around for 5 Friday feedback, because we have a pretty good listener mailbag that's all about that exact thing. It's tough and it's work. And I think there's an old adage of more money, more problems. Well, I think that's stupid. It's not actually true. But more money, more ability to get yourself into problems.
Yes. And the problems are bigger, more expensive. Yeah.
Because if you're only making $10,000, I'm not going to give you $100,000 in credit as a loan person. But if you're making $1 million, I'll give you $100,000, no problem.
Yep.
I'll give you $2 million. I know you're going to be good for it. You have the money. And now people start getting themselves into this debt spiral. and they say, I'm working so hard, I'm doing all the right things. Where's all of it going? Well, it's all going to your fixed costs. You inflated your lifestyle to such a degree that now you need to constantly make that income. How are you ever going to get where you want to go if all of your money, if you're giving all your money to your left hand, giving it to your right hand and throwing it away?
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Step 4, step 1, spending review. Step 2, income assessment. Step 3, organize your financial documents. Then after that, we're going to do a savings review. We need to evaluate our emergency fund. Do we have at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account or somewhere that is easily accessible, whether that be a money market account, whatever it is for you? Maybe some people say, no, I want 12 months. I want 10 months. Yeah. But you want to make sure, and the reason you do this is you know what your spending is. It's time to look and say, is the spending that I've been doing for the past 6 months, is that actually in line with the 3 to 6 months of money that I have in my savings account? Because if you told yourself, I only spend $3,000 a month, but you look back and you see that you've been spending $6,000 a month, well, instead of having 6 months of emergency savings, which you wanted to be at, now you're at 3 months of savings. You need to know these things by actually looking looking under the hood and knowing the real truth rather than just, I think it's this, and that makes me feel better to not look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the high yield savings account, and I like the idea of like, well, you can have 6 months, you can have 3 months, you can have 12 months if you want of emergency expenses. I like to keep it a little bit juicier, me personally. I like that. It's personal.
Yeah. And it's personal. It really is. It's your individual risk tolerance. I keep a year, and I know it's crazy. I know I shouldn't, but it makes me sleep better at night. And at some point, instead of optimizing for what's the best return on my investment, I want to optimize for just being able to go to bed without worrying about what the stock market's going to do tomorrow. I don't have to think about that.
Yeah.
In addition to our savings rate. Go for it.
I was going to say, like you said, it's like, no, it's wrong. It's like, no. It's there. You can be wrong in personal finance, but I don't think you're wrong in saving 12 months, right? Because the personal side of personal finance is all to help you sleep better at night. You don't want to have to be worrying. I put my life savings in Dogecoin. I hope it goes up. I hope it doesn't crash by 70% tomorrow. It's like, no. You put them in respectable things with respectable companies. You don't have to worry about them. And you have, you have your emergency fund, you have your crisis fund if you're at that stage. We talk about that here a lot, but I don't think there's anything wrong with 12 months. I mean, from a growth aspect, and as long as you have it in high yield, 5%.
High yield, money market account, whatever. Yeah. And even if you do decide, hey, I want to take my chances on Doge, I want to take my chances on Bitcoin, I want to take my chances on whatever it is, just make sure that you're willing and you know that I could lose that amount tomorrow and I'll still be okay.
Yeah.
Personal fact, I have a large amount of my net worth in Bitcoin.
Doge.
Going to the moon, son.
To the moon, baby. Okay, so nothing in Doge.
A large amount of nothing in Doge, but I have a large amount of net worth in Bitcoin for me. But even if that investment goes to zero, I have other money that's just fine and it's going to be safe. That's because of the Bitcoin thing. I have a year of savings because I offset in my brain the risk versus the safety. And I have other investments too. It's not like Chris has $1 million and all $1 million is in Bitcoin, because that'd be a really hard ride.
Also, your net worth, it wouldn't, it's like if you had $1 million and your net worth is $1 million and for some reason it's all cash, you wouldn't want to put it all in one thing. I mean, that's
God, no.
We're talking about a gamble. That's gambling. Yep. We don't talk about gambling here. Just the joke of gambling, not the actual gambling.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult because people wonder, like financial advisors, they know what the market's going to do tomorrow. Do you know what chaos theory is in physics?
Tell me.
So chaos theory is basically that there is too much randomness in life to ever predict anything. Now, with the advent of AI, maybe we'll be able to get a little bit more out of it. But the hard thing is that in life, there is consciousness. I can't predict what you're going to do next. I can't even predict what I'm going to do next if you're actually truthful with yourself.
True. Yeah,
I don't know words in my mouth until they start coming out of my mouth. So in order for me to predict the future, that means that I have to know everything that I'm going to do, everything that you're going to do, everything that everyone in the world is going to do, plus all the natural phenomenons, every single thing. I was recently talking today with a guy who works in global shipping. He's a logistics guy for global shipping. Okay. and we were talking about how interconnected the entire world is. He was saying that because the Panama Canal had a water shortage, global shipping went all haywire. And then due to things in Ukraine and parts of Africa where there's piracy, all of this stuff is getting messed up. And then you can see the flow through of how shipping lanes are now impacting global supply chains. And the global supply chains is what gets us what we need, which then affects the economy. That is one aspect of how the world works.
Goodness. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, you never know. Is that similar to like the butterfly effect?
It is.
It is.
It is. Well, the butterfly effect is that one small change can affect the outcome, which is 100% true. We only know the way that history did unfold. Mm-hmm. We don't know the way that history could have unfolded.
Yeah, and it's infinite.
Yep, it's infinite. And that's the multiverse theory, right? Like that's what multiverse is.
Yeah.
And who knows if it's real or not real? I think it's fun to think about, so we'll think about it.
It's fun. It's fun to think about. What's wrong with that? I like it. I love thinking about stuff like that. It's just like, dude, it makes my brain hurt.
Makes my brain hurt too.
We like that. We're masochists, you know?
And that's the weird part, right? Is no one can predict the future. Do you know what superpositioning is?
I'm about to learn. About to find out right now.
Superpositioning is the same thing as like a Higgs boson, that by observing phenomenon, it actually changes the phenomenon. So we know macro physics. We understand how the world works on a macro level. But when you go to micro level, micro seems to have a consciousness that we don't understand. By us observing certain particles, the particles change their behavior, which is crazy to think about. But how are you going to now predict what something's going to happen when it seems that there's a base level of consciousness that we don't begin to understand? It's kind of like trying to explain to you, if my dog is watching TV, my dog just sees the TV, but my dog has no idea.
That's so bizarre. Like that's like such a twist. I don't know why that threw me. So first off, it's like my dog is watching TV. It's like, what? Did he turn on the TV? What is he watching? Impossible. You know what? That's okay. I'm sorry. That just like threw me so hard. Continue, please.
It's right. Where I'm going with this is that there are things in this world that we don't understand. And it's kind of like my dog watching TV and trying to understand the inner mechanics of how that TV works. His brain can't process it.
No.
And maybe we can't process it either.
Yeah.
So anyone that says like, I can predict the future, I know these things, do you really? Mm-hmm. What's your track record?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a dangerous place to be when you're desperate and you need it to go. You need a Hail Mary, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunately when most people get taken advantage of. That's when the financial advisor, quote unquote financial advisor, who's really an insurance salesman, shows up and says, I know what you need. You need to buy this whole life policy.
Yeah.
And you're so desperate, you're looking for that anything that I can get, that you're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Or the person that says, I know what you need to do. Go take out $100,000 loan. Give me that money. I promise you that I'll double it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we all sit there and we laugh at those people like, oh, how stupid are they to put themselves into a Nigerian prince scheme? But if you're so desperate that you're trying to figure out how am I going to make it to tomorrow, it makes sense. The same reason that the largest amount of people that buy lottery tickets are those people who are 100% poor, who are living paycheck to paycheck, because they're not maximizing for how am I going to retire in 20, 30 years.
No.
They're maximizing for a chance of happiness.
What their perceived happiness would be.
Yep. And at least for that one week, or until that moment they hit that scratch and scratch it off, they have that hope.
Yeah.
The hope that things might get better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sad. It's definitely sad because we can plan for a better life. Mm-hmm. But it all comes down to like the small decisions we make. There was this thing I heard the other day. It was like, everybody has a vision of what they want to be. Hopefully, me personally, I have a vision of who I want to be. And the person I was watching, I think it was on a podcast, they were saying, rather than wanting to be that person, just start acting like that person and you'll become that person. I want to be super jacked. Well, I'm going to start acting super jacked. Well, what does a super jacked person do? Well, they might meal prep their meals and they're going to hit all their macros. They get enough protein. Perfect. I can do that. I mean, it's simple enough, right? I can go to the gym. Simple enough. I can progressively overload and do all these wonderful things, sauna and all these things. Wow, I'm turning into this person. It's like, no, you over time have become this person, right? So like when Chris and I started the podcast, I was not a fit individual. I wasn't. I wasn't. I mean, I was not fit. We'll just put it that way, right? Through the dedication of going to the gym every day, I became fit, and now it's like my friends, they know me as like the gym rat almost. It's kind of funny. But going back to finance, if you're wanting to hit a goal, right? Save X amount of dollars, invest X amount of dollars, and you don't change anything to get to that goal, I mean, you're an insane person, first of all, because, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that's literally the definition of insanity. Sometimes we got to cut back on the little things or the big things. Chris talked about this. This might have been 6 months back. I remember this because we were talking about spending $6 on a coffee, right? Starbucks. And I was like, well, you should cut the Starbucks, right? You should definitely cut it. I mean, you're spending, let's say, $5 a day, work 5 days a week, right? You're spending $25. It's $100 a month. That's a lot of money, over the month. And Chris is like, no, that's pennies, right? Try looking at the bigger picture items that we can cut back on, right? And it was just like, wait, what? Like, it threw me for such a turn. And I think it was one of the most actionable things I ever did from this podcast was not worrying so much about, it's 30 cents more, 30 cents less. It's like, no, it's like, what are we doing with our investments? Why do we have so much stuff in our savings? Shouldn't that be in something that's growing? Making the bigger decisions is so important. Then once you make the right bigger decisions, you don't really have to stress as much on the littler decisions.
Yeah.
And
I always tell that my clients as you're focusing on the $5 decision when you should be focusing on the $5,000 decision.
Yeah.
Is saving money on your morning latte going to help? Of course it's going to help. Like I'm not stupid. $100 is $100. Mm-hmm. But if you're someone who also, if you're saying like, oh, I'm gonna cut back here, I'm not going to spend money on Starbucks, but then you go out and you buy a car that you can't afford. Well, now you're spending $800 a month on that car.
Yeah.
That $100 a month means nothing. It's eightfold compared to the car. And people do this over and over and over again with the house, with the car, with all these things, as if money has different things. It's all the same money. The money that you pay for the car with, the pay that you pay the house with, is the same money that you pay for the Starbucks with.
Yeah.
So rather than focusing on the $5 decisions, you need to focus on the $5,000 decisions. But again, it's hard because people want to not have to deal with that. Because what I'm saying is that if you're spending more money than you're making, either you can go and make more money, which is going to fix the problem. But what's often ends up happening is you end up putting yourself in the same situation because of lifestyle inflation.
Yep.
Or you need to make the hard decision and start cutting back. And cutting back is hard because you knew that you had it and you lost it. And sometimes that's harder than never having it at all.
Bingo.
I mean, even I can speak from personal experience. The reason that I'm financially independent is not because I'm a multimillionaire. Yeah. The reason I'm financially independent is because I have an extremely low cost of living, because I've worked on my mindset for so many years to be happy with almost nothing. And now I have a strong enough why that drives me every single day to get me out of bed and try to make this world a better place. Yeah. I may not succeed. Statistically, I probably won't succeed. Yeah. But at least I'm going to try.
And you know what? Trying's way better than never trying at all. Failing is way better than never trying at all. Way better. Not even close, guys. So what made your check?
Step 5, we're going to go on to debt management. So this is the really important part. We want to list out all of our outstanding debts. That means current credit card loans, current mortgage loans, current car loans, current personal loans. Then we want to check all the balances, all the interest rates, and all the monthly payments. This is also a really good time to automate things. If you have automated bill pay, really good time to do that. It's also good to start to explore refinance options, maybe consolidation options. But most importantly, we need to develop and update our repayment plan for all of these things. Because all of these debts is taking away from your future self. You can kick the can down the road as long as you want to, but eventually it will catch up with you. Unless you plan on taking all that debt to the grave. And if that's the case, that's fine, but you will never achieve financial independence. You'll be working for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great strategy. It's not a great strategy. Everybody deserves to be financially free. Everybody deserves to not have the shackles of debt around you and just have some peace. That's what we're all looking for. Just peace. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully you're not looking for chaos.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
I'm all about anarchy, son.
I'm all about anarchy,
watch
son.
the world burn.
Yeah, a little Joker monologue in there, It's like sometimes you just gotta watch the world burn. Okay, so a little debt management, getting that under control.
Debt management. Step number 6, we want to optimize subscriptions. This is something that I added in for a lot of people because what you want to do is you want to go ahead and during your spending thing, review all your regular and reoccurring expenses.
Yeah.
And then you need to decide, are these reoccurring subscriptions essential for me? Can I cancel them? Did I maybe get Netflix because I really wanted to watch Alice in Borderlands? And now I watch it and I'm done with it until season 3 comes out, which, by the way, if you've never seen Alice in Borderlands, check it out because it is awesome. Can I get rid of it for right now and bring it back?
Yeah.
I would definitely. And then also, when you're checking out your subscription, this is also a good chance to negotiate for a better rate or even switch providers entirely for a new one. This really works well for insurance, car insurance, house insurance, and also works really well for cell phones. There are always better plans out there that are constantly changing for both of those two things. And if you check once a year, once mid-year, I do it twice a year, but I'm neurotic. But if you do it once a year, it's going to be much more helpful because if you're the person who's spending, I don't know, $140 on your cell phone subscription because you have the ultimate data plan and all this stuff, and you go into T-Mobile, AT&T, whatever, and you say, hey, what am I using? And you find out you're only using 5 gigabytes of data, but you're paying for unlimited. Can we downgrade to 5 gigabytes of data and only pay half the price? You have to find that out for yourself. You have to decide if that's worth it to you. But saving money is saving money.
Yeah, saving money is saving money.
And I think too many people say, "Oh, I don't want to do the optimizing. I don't want to do the negotiating because it's hard, and I've already lost that money." But if I told you, "Hey, Dominic, you can make this phone call, and you can save yourself $100," most people say, "I'm not going to do that." But if I tell you, Dominic, if you make this phone call, I will give you $100. Most people say, "Okay, I'll make that phone call."
I'll probably make that phone call. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, both of those are logically the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You have $100 more in your pocket because of that phone call.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird how that feels different though, It's so weird. It's so weird. Saving 100 versus getting 100. You don't value it as much if you have it.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, you don't value it as much if you have it. But if you had to go get it, there's something else. A little bit different. A little bit different, guys. Okay.
Step number 7.
Yep.
It's time to start consolidating and simplifying your accounts. If you have multiple bank accounts, while I've met people in the past who have gone from bank account to bank account to bank account, just trying to get 1% better yield, 0.% better yield, and now they have 18 different bank accounts. And now hey, I'm getting all this great yield. How much stress is it to try to keep in line 18 different bank accounts? Remember where all this money is. From an estate planning perspective, how is your executor going to figure out where the hell you have 18 different accounts? Again, there are consequences to every action. You might be able to get 1% percentage point more, but how much more are you complicating your life to have that? Yeah. I think when it comes to finance, simplicity is key.
Absolutely.
The easier we make it, the better it is. Also, if you're the person who's constantly going between bank account and bank account, you're also losing money in the transfer time. In order for you to ACAT something, it typically takes 5 to 7 days. So that's 5 to 7 days of you not making money on your investments because it's getting transferred to another custodian.
Yeah.
And then there could even be tax implications.
True.
So don't try to maximize one thing at the expense of all the other things that it's going to mess up.
Yeah,
maybe you can consolidate credit cards amounts to make things easier and then simplify tracking transactions and financial progress. And what you can do for that is something like Monarch Money, something like Copilot, something like Rocket Money. Yep. You could do all these things automated in order to consolidate and simplify your money management. Or you can be like me and do it all manual. Different strokes for different folks. They all work, people. It's going to be dependent on what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
That leads us to number 8. We're going to want to automate our bill payments. Set up automating and recurring payments to avoid late fees and improve your credit score and ensure a timely payment.
Yeah.
Too many people say, this is just such an easy step. Why would I do that? I know at the beginning of every month that I have to go in there and pay my credit cards. What happens to the month that you end up getting hit by a car and you can't? And now you're also having to deal with a broken leg and your credit score just took a hit. Set these things up as backups. And if it maybe took you 5 minutes every month to go in and just hit those payments, pay. If you set up automatic bill pay, you've just saved yourself not 5 months for this month, but 5 months for every month moving forward for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's that simple. It's really that simple. I mean, sometimes we think about like, oh man, it's hard to save time. It's like, we literally just gave you something. We literally just gave you away.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Rather than trying to make more time, you can multiply your time by automating tasks and getting them out of the way. Yeah. Step number 9, we want to do a credit health check. Once a year, you have the ability to obtain a free credit report from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are all 3 of the major bureaus. If you don't want to get all 3, that's fine. Just know they're all going to be different, and different loan providers will pull from different ones. I think TransUnion's the biggest one, but whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
When you're doing this, though, don't just look at the score. Most people look at the score and they go, okay, throw away the piece of paper. You need to start looking for errors and signs of identity theft. You look at the score, then you look under the score to see what things are bringing that in. Maybe does it say that you opened an account that you never did, but we have an issue that we need to deal with now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you recommend doing that once a year?
Yes.
Okay. I've done it. I did it a few months ago. I did it a few months ago just to make sure my credit is locked in. Yeah, it was super easy. Super easy. So much easier than you think.
I pay for a service that monitors my credit, and I also lock Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I call them and I tell them to lock my credit, so that in order for me to do a hard credit pull when I apply for a new credit card, I actually have to call each one of them and then tell them, hey, unlock it so that I can do a hard pull. I did that for a while. I'm kind of doing it right now, but I'm thinking I'm going to stop it because I apply for so many credit cards. It is annoying to make 3 phone calls every time. Yeah. So that's the reason that I pay for LifeLock, and not for LifeLock in particular, but I pay for services that watch my credit scores, and they tell me every single one of my credit cards, actually all my premier credit cards. Every time I apply for a card, I get an email from Chase, I get an email from Capital One, I get an email from American Express immediately saying, "Hey, someone opened your credit. Was that you?"
Yep.
So I know that I'm pretty safe, but that doesn't mean that I don't also check to see if there's something that could have fallen through the cracks. And if you look at your credit score and you realize, shit, this is not where I want it to be, start taking steps today to make it better.
Yeah. It's the only way. You can't start tomorrow. Got to start today.
No.
Got to start today, guys.
No, you can't. And we actually did a whole podcast. I think it was, I don't know, maybe like 28 or something like that, 29, where we went through every single part of the credit score. Actually 26. Episode 26, we went through every part of the 5 components that make your credit score and how to improve them.
Yeah.
Step.
Go for it.
Anything else?
No, I was going to say, I mean, like, those are great podcasts. I highly recommend everybody go back and check those out.
And you can see how far we have come.
Maybe don't go back. Maybe don't go back.
Maybe don't go back. Yeah. Maybe we'll redo them at some point. Step number 10, we want to check our insurance coverage. So we want to review all of our insurance policies. That means health, auto, home, life, etc. We want to ensure that the coverage is adequate and up to date. And then we want to compare policies again to ensure that we're getting the best rate. Because you might be loyal to USAA as your car insurance, but that doesn't mean they're loyal to you for giving you the best rate.
Usually aren't.
They usually aren't.
Yours?
We did. We talked about that back on the How to Make More Money episode.
Yep.
During the 5 crash course.
That's right. Yep. I forgot about that.
Again, that comes with a lot of nuance. You need an hour conversation to decide if that's right for you, and maybe even a private coaching call before you decide, hey, I'm going to quit my job because Chris and Dominic told me I can make more money if I do that than working hard at my current job.
Yeah. There's so much to consider. When jumping ship to another job. It's just not for the faint of heart either. It's not an easy thing to do.
And that's the hard thing with all of this, is that there's so much to consider in everything that you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Life is not simple.
Yeah. No.
That's just a fact.
No, it's never simple.
So step number 11, tax planning. Everyone loves taxes. So we need to review our incomes and our tax withholdings for the first part of the year and ensure that it's on track for what our taxes are going to be. Maybe you're someone like me who is a sole proprietor and I pay estimated taxes quarterly.
Yep.
At this time, I recently just made my payment to the IRS so that I wouldn't fall back.
Yeah.
What unfortunately most business owners do and most people do is they won't withhold enough taxes. And then at the end of the year, or when they file their taxes, they end up owing a buttload of money. So if you made $100,000 this year and you're like, I don't want to withhold any taxes, I'll deal with that later. And you spend on that $100,000, when you go to file your taxes and the IRS tells you you owe us $32,000 or $25,000, whatever your tax bracket is, where are you going to come up with that money? That's why it's good to check in halfway through the year to say, hey, am I on track for withholding the right amount of taxes? If I'm withholding too much, I can tear it down. If I'm not withholding enough, I can tear it up through my W-2 job, or I can make an estimated payment through the IRS.gov website, which I've talked about in the past how to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hard. You gotta try.
Yep.
Gotta try, boys.
I promise you, it is figure outable. You may not know how to do it right now, but it is figure outable. And wait till we know where we're at before we make those conversions. If you have no idea what a Roth conversion is or how to do it, please reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com or a local fiduciary advisor if that's something that interests you. But that is not something that you're just going to do willy-nilly. That's something where obviously you're going to probably want the advice of a financial advisor and most likely a CPA as well. Step number 12, update your financial goals. In January, hopefully you sat down, set up your goals for the year. Now is the time to review those goals and see and assess them and maybe adjust the timelines and the strategies accordingly. I think the worst thing that people do here is they say, I'm going to save money, I'm going to do all these things. And then by January 15th, they've given up.
Yeah.
This is a time to renew it again. July 1st, July 15th, whatever day, start. The best time to have planted a tree is 10 years ago. The next best time is right fucking now.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. So we implore you to plant that tree, guys. Plant that tree. Start today.
So I'm going to review real quick and then we'll get to the action steps. So number 1, review your spending review. Number 2, income assessment. Number 3, organize your financial documents. Number 4, savings review. Number 5, debt management. Then after that, we're going to optimize our subscriptions. Number 7, consolidate and simplify your accounts. Number 8, automate your bill pay. Number 9, check your credit score history and health. Number 10, check your insurance coverages. Number 11, start doing some mid-year tax planning. And number 12, assess your financial goals that you had. Reassess them. See, is this still working for me? Do I want to change them? Do I need to adjust them? Do I need to get started at this point of the year rather than waiting all the way to January to start saving money?
Bingo. Yeah.
Your action step for the week, because we are all about action here. I don't want you to listen and not take action. Information without action is entertainment. We are entertaining. I grant you that. I'm so funny and so is Dominic. But at the end of the day, if you listen to everything that we say and don't put anything into it and don't actually do any of it, you have gained nothing from listening to us for the past hour or whatever we've been talking.
Yeah.
So action step is start with step 1 today of the mid-year checklist. If you currently aren't tracking your spending, please start ASAP. It is so much harder to get your finances under control when you don't know where all your money's going.
Not the truth.
So just start.
Yeah.
1% better every day. The power of compounding. If you're 1% better every day, you're going to be 100% better in 72 days. That's only a little bit over 2 months. If you do that, how many times a year, how many times in a lifetime, you are going to develop into the person that you want to be. The best way to become a millionaire is to be worthy of a person who should become a millionaire.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to say the
Same
best
way
way to
finding
become.
a good.
I honestly, for a second, I thought like the best way to have $1 million. Start off with $2 million. Burn the first one. There you go. Pro tip.
Hashtag boy math.
Boy math, right there. That's what it is. What it is.
I think hashtag boy math is the best way to have $1 million is get your daddy to give you $2 million and then lose half of it in crypto trading. Boom, millionaire.
More common than you'd want. I'll tell you that much. Goodness gracious, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that action steps. Chris, you got something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to do the conclusion. By following this checklist, you'll ensure your finances are in order and aligned with your long-term financial objectives. Regular mid-year reviews help you make necessary adjustments and maintain financial health throughout the year and through your lifetime.
Yeah, just like that. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this 6-month review. I hope you guys go on and do a review of your own, whether that's alone or with your spouse, or even encourage your parents or a friend to do it as well. That's kind of our fee for the show, if you don't mind, is just tell a friend about the Fi Guys. And this could be a great opportunity for you to tell like a buddy here is like, hey, I'm doing this 6-month review. I think you should do it too. I learned it on the Fi Guys. Check them out. But yeah, I really hope you guys take action on this, because stuff left unchecked oftentimes, more often than not, turns out really bad. So let's plan for a future.
It's just going to get worse.
It always does. Yeah, you got to stay on top.
The longer that you put it away, the more it's going to get worse. My wife does not like these things, but after we did this financial checklist and we made it fun, we talked about it. We talked about our goals and our hopes and our dreams. She actually turned to me and said, "Chris, this is probably one of the more fun ones we've done."
Good.
And I'm so happy that by teaching these things to our podcast, to you, Dominic, that I'm actually getting better at it myself.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love that. That's awesome.
All right, guys. So
awesome.
Like, subscribe. We'll see you this Friday for 5 Friday feedback. Please stick around because we have some pretty juicy ones on the viewer mailbag. And I'm also going to give you kind of an insight into something that's new for Monzon Wealth that listeners of the Fi Guys might get an exclusive discount. So we'll see you until then. Hope you guys have a great week. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.